Hey there, I'm Anthony Romano, and this video is going to focus on supersets. So, normally I talk a lot about the nutritional side of things, and I'm making more videos on a lot of the training practical application you could use here. So, as far as supersets, the point of this video is partly ingrained in golden era training methods because I'm huge into those, and I like merging the modern science with the golden era techniques, things like that, in the classic physique bodybuilding look. So, supersets are your key to that, because when we're talking about building a classic physique in a natural way, you're going to want to emphasize building basically muscle through hypertrophy in time under tension, right? With time under tension as the key variable here. Okay, so I'm gonna explain this after I roll my intro. Yeah, oh, like and subscribe too, and follow my Instagram. So let's get into supersets and how they fit into building a classic physique naturally. So, of course, classic physique naturally, I bring in a lot of golden era nutrition methods, and I have videos on that stuff, which you can watch. But the point is with the actual building component, right? I don't care what anybody tells you. With bodybuilding, you need two things: time under tension and progressive strength increase. Okay, so not one more than the other. They're yin and yang, just like calories and macros are yin and yang, right? Quantitative and qualitative. Essentially, they're two sides of the same coin. You need to increase time under tension, and you need to get stronger, right? Muscle is a byproduct of strength, and you're not going to grow unless you get stronger. But the way you use these supersets to grow is minimizing the rest time, right? So lower rest time, almost like circuit training, is a way I was speaking to somebody and advising somebody the other day on basically a way to think of this, right? The best way to grow is a sort of circuit training. So this doesn't mean like, you know, throwing kettlebells up in the air. This means, well, I mean, unless you're Joe Rogan or something, I don't know. That's very functional, specific training. But as far as growth, you need time under tension and you need strength increase. And think about it this way, okay? To increase your strength, you have to start lifting heavier weight and progressively increase, and go up. When you have time under tension and lower rest time, that 10-pound dumbbell can feel as heavy as a 30-pound dumbbell. It's relative to what else you just did. This is why they're two sides of the same coin. Basically, your strength can increase by simply lifting a light weight after you've just burned out, right? So the amount of tension is really key here. It's the driving, factor here. So when we're looking at building muscle in a classic physique way, of course, there's certain things you want to emphasize. You want to emphasize frame. You want to emphasize building up your, that waist and shoulder ratio, okay? There's key elements like that, and those are listed in other programs I make. But as far as supersets apply here, they're your key to building muscle. Supersets are essentially going to be the primary area where you minimize rest time, okay? So you're going to go from all your exercises, basically run through them. And you want to start off with your heavier compound lifts, so multi-joint exercises, because what that's going to do is basically with the multi-joint exercises, you're able to go heavier at first. So you're able to focus on hitting that strength increase with weight that is actually, bigger, right? When you have one joint involved, you're only able to lift so much, and you run the risk of injury because only one joint is being used in the exercise. This is why whenever you see guys just doing bicep curls in the gym that are just starting, they're not going to grow. The way you grow is by doing the weighted pull-ups, the weighted dips, the compound version of that bicep curl, because now it's basically like having a spotter for your biceps. That's your shoulder. Your shoulder is the spotter for your biceps there. So imagine if you're doing those bicep curls, but somebody's able to spot you every time you're struggling. That is the benefit of compound exercises, and they allow you to hit more heavy weights basically, because you also have that stability of two arms, of a two-armed exercise, or a two-limbed exercise, because I guess you could do it with legs too. But the point is, isolations are still important. They're the icing on the cake, and you have to use them. But I normally start off with the compounds, and then I go with the isolations. Of course, you want to warm up the isolation movements first in appropriate ways, but you're going to hit those heavy compounds. And even if you take a little bit more rest there, that's fine, but there's going to be individual preferences. When we're going on to adding in when we're hitting the weights that aren't like, your 5 rep max, okay? When we're hitting the weights above that, because that's the bodybuilding range, the hypertrophy range, right? Breaking down muscle tissue so you can build it bigger. that is where you're going to really hit this sort of circuit style training. That is where supersets are massive for growth, pun intended, because you're going to be breaking down the amount of muscle fibers. And the big key here that I'm going to end this video off with is it's going to increase the amount of lactic acid in your muscles. So many of you probably know lactic acid. It is the reason people get shin splints. It is what makes you fatigued in a muscle when you're reaching failure. Now, you don't necessarily have to push to failure right at the end, right, where you're gonna hurt, because you could hurt yourself that way. But think about whenever you've done a sport or something. Your legs were tired, they felt sore. That is from lactic acid building up in the muscles. Now, bodybuilders train differently than powerlifters. Bodybuilders, what they do is they try to maximize the amount of lactic acid in a muscle, and that breaks down the tissue so then they can then grow. So when you are just jamming lactic acid into a muscle, the part of the reason your muscle grows, the main theory, is because your muscle is accommodating to being able to handle more lactic acid. You simply flushed in so much lactic acid, right? That's why it's sore. And that's why when you've burnt out and then you're hitting that 10-pound dumbbell curl, it feels heavier because you flushed so much lactic acid and you're continuously flushing more in. That area where you're finally, topping off and putting in more lactic acid to the point of discomfort, that is the key point where you're actually growing. So if you push to that point, it has to get to the point where you're at least somewhat uncomfortable in a workout, right, towards the end especially, because that is what's going to actually cause growth, because it's putting in an abnormally high amount of lactic acid in your muscles, which is causing the muscles to grow in order to accommodate that. It's an adaptive mechanism, okay? So besides the fact that muscle is a byproduct of strength, right, and powerlifter people are still pretty jacked, the point is bodybuilding people tend to have more shapeliness in the muscle because that is the type of training they specialize in, putting that lactic acid in the muscle. So you can optimize that by getting more supersets, getting less rest time. That is what's going to actually cause growth, and why supersets are a killer for growth. And that's it for the video, okay? Made this one quick. Anthony Romano. Like, subscribe, and follow my Instagram, okay? Got programs dropping on my website. Go to that website, romanoketo.com, for coaching as well. Peace.